Good morning, everyone. Just give people time to get in the room and sip a little more of my coffee. Good morning, everyone. This is Luciana Turner bringing you this morning's edition of the LT&A Chatter Project. The Chatter Project is designed to be the up-level conversation around government contracting. Excuse me. I am your host of the Chatter Project, and I welcome you. As you come into the room, you know how we were taught, just send a greeting. Hello, how are you? If you're catching this by the replay, hashtag replay in the comments so that I can acknowledge that you stopped by. I wanted to give a few more minutes or a few more moments for people to realize that I'm live. The Chatter Project goes live from our YouTube channel, the LT&A Contractors Conversation. And that is also where you can catch all the replays. Our Facebook company page, the LT&A Company, as well as my personal Facebook page, Luciana Turner. And from my Instagram feed at the LT&A Consulting Group LLC. I am your government contracting compliance officer and your host. Today's installment is basically going to be an overview of what we discussed this week. Well, typically a Friday is an overview of the discussion for the week and a preview of next week's discussion. Today, I want to somewhat carry on a conversation that I was involved in last night. Last night, I impromptu was invited to a stage on Clubhouse where we discussed various aspects of government contracting. I answered a few questions around SAM's registration, the purpose of the cage codes, and things of that nature. I wanted to continue that conversation with this thought. There are some resources every government contractor should have, or anybody doing business with the government. First, you should have a copy of the FAR. I know a lot of people like to go online. FAR is very cumbersome to read. And while we're in this paperless technological society, if you're trying to draft a response and read FAR, it can be a bit much. The U.S. Printing Office sells subscriptions to FAR where you can purchase a copy of it and they automatically send you any FAR updates. So I would tell anybody in government contracting, you should have a copy of the FAR sitting on your desk or on your bookcase. Anybody in government contracting should also have a copy of CAS. That is the cost accounting standards. Your CAS coverage is triggered by contract value. And you can be CAS covered on Monday and not CAS covered on Tuesday. However, once you're CAS covered, my advice is to carry on as though you're always CAS covered. So you should have a copy of CAS in your bookcase. I would tell every government contractor, now the new beta SAM, that's beta.sam.gov, is replacing SAMs. It's also replacing Fed bid ops has already replaced Fed bid ops. That is located on Beta Sams. And the goal of the government is to have basically a one-stop shop. All of your procurement opportunities, procurement questions will be listed on that one website. So I would suggest anyone who's interested in government contracts or grants. So yes, my nonprofit community, you should be listening to this conversation as well. Become familiar with Beta Sam. You should be able to, or you should learn how to navigate it to find out the information that you're wanting to find. You will also find your spending information there. It's all going to be on Beta Sam. So all of this running to different government websites is going to be a thing of the past after a while. And that's a good thing for contractors. Trying to keep up with all these sites was a chore, and nobody ever got them all. Now, there were some resources named in that conversation last night. There was the PTAC office, and that is the Procurement Technical Assistance Contract. I can't remember the exact acronym, but most major cities have a PTAC office. The job of that office is to assist newbies in government contracting with basic information. They will not handhold you through the contract process. Do not expect it. They offer rudimentary classes. And when I say rudimentary, they are really very elemental ABCs. They're not even 1, 2, 3s. ABCs classes. They will answer basic questions around registration, navigating. If you're a little bit savvy and know what kind of question to ask, they can help you around some strategic introductions. But their job is to be your initial facilitator. They will not handhold you. Most people know about the SBA. They offer classes. Once again, these are very elemental, very basic classes. Most community colleges now are contracting with consultants such as myself to offer basics in government contracting. Excuse me. Because I'm choking this morning. I don't understand why I'm choking on here. But they're contracting with government contractors or consultants such as myself to offer basics in government contracting class. These classes range in prices from free to $100. You will only get basic information. However, if you have the drive, you can take that basic information and do something with it. You also have, we went over to PTech, the community college. Every government agency has a liaison, small business liaisons office that you should introduce yourself to. This person is not your best friend. This person is not going to give you, I'm going to say this tongue in cheek. This person is not going to give you inside information on contract. And I'm going to say it tongue in cheek. But this office position or this office job is to, one, help that agency meet its small business goal. Every government office has a small business contracting goal, and most of them do not meet it. It just is what it is. They do not meet that goal. That is the purpose of that office. So when they come time to review proposals for the RFP, there's typically somebody of that office sitting in the room. They then can say, I met with that person, or I've been introduced to that company. And they seem credible, intelligent. their character, they can kind of speak up for you on that regard, which can mean the difference between you being considered shortlisted or not. Now, don't embarrass these people and have them get you on the short list or potentially win the award, and then you get the contract they can't perform. And I'm going to hit that in a minute. But the liaisons officer, it can be your friend in contracting, but they are not your best friend, as in I'm going to call them and tell them all your problems. No, we need to learn how to categorize people and relationships. And with that, I'm going to say this. Because of the stigma and outright lies around government contracting, there are certain behaviors in contracting that we just cannot do. So something as benign as let's go out and grab a coffee can be seen negatively. So gifts to government officials are frowned upon. There used to be a dollar amount. I think it was anything over $25 at one time. When I first started contracting, it was $25. Then, and I believe FAR still says $25. The practice became $10. Then the practice became, we just ain't doing nothing. Because people are so ready to believe the negative, the appearance of an impropriety has the impact of truth. Therefore, even something as benign as buying your contracting officer or procurement agent a cup of coffee and a bagel, somebody can, and if they're bitter, will make an issue out of it. So I know this sounds petty, but there are some petty people operating in the government space now. And the Wall Street Journal test is if it can end up on page, it says the front page, I'm saying page 3, don't do it. I do want to say this. I was sitting in a webinar, virtual seminar, where the senator in charge of the contracting committee rules, there's talks about changing the bid protest procedures. And this came about because Microsoft was awarded a big contract within DoD. That contract got bid protest ad nauseum, to the point that that contract was withdrawn, is now being broken up and recompeted all over again. So all the money already spent, and I believe it's like $5 million was already spent, was essentially wasted. Then you're going to have to go through the whole recompete again. And that's a problem. And that's because a strategy of companies has been, we're going to use bid protest as a tool to get work. What typically happened was we protest the bid to hold up the work. And then a backdoor deal is done where we said, look, we'll drop the bid protest if you give us a piece of work. The person who wins gives a piece to the bid protester, they drop the bid and they go on. This contract was bid protest to the point they had to stop work. And this particular senator, and because I left my notebook in the other room, I don't have his name sitting in front of me, said they recognize the abuse in the system. So there is going to be, and there is an initiative to change that whole process. So be on the lookout. Now, most small businesses cannot afford to launch a bid protest. They are expensive. And 10 years ago, one change was made that the protester or whoever loses the protest had to pay the fees related to it. That was one way they stopped the frivolous protest. this new, and it decreased the frivolous protests. This new change, I don't know what it is, what it's going to be, but I foresee it being a humdinger. Now, bid protest is a viable tool. The big dogs use it all the time. And this is where you should have a government contracting attorney. A regular attorney will not do this correctly because they do not understand the rules. Excuse me, they do not understand the rules that go along with bid protest and government contracting, and they will mess it up. So this is where a government contracting attorney comes into play. And every contractor should have one on speed dial. Go out, hold a conversation, vet one so that you can have them on speed dial. And I will never tell anyone not to have one and not to do a bid protest should the need arise. However, the days of utilizing bid protests as a bullying tool are coming to an end, or a near end, because you're not going to tell me any changes that they make to that process is not going to stop it from being used as a bullying tool. Sour grapes are sour grapes, and that's just all there is to it. So I just wanted to lay that out there. Coming changes to security requirements for contractors. I've talked about this and I'm going to continue to talk about it. I foresee the requirement coming down within the next 90 to 120 days. There's going to be a security requirement, especially for those seeking to do work with DoD. DoD actually already has this requirement out there. There's been some pushback on it because it is costly for small businesses to implement. However, because of the increase in cyber attacks and because the cyber attacks and the vulnerability is coming from the contractor side, they're pushing down security requirements to their contractors. And to implement these security requirements is going to cost some money. So I'm cautioning my audience to start looking into, and I'm not talking about Norton antivirus and none, no, I'm talking about a robust security system. I believe it's CMMI. I know I'm saying the acronym wrong, but it is a security requirement. You're going to be required to report any significant breaches or attempts at your system. They have not ironed out who they get reported to, how often. I'm quite sure there's going to be an audit step added to the IT audit. So be on the lookout and be prepared for that to be initiated and enacted, especially with the government implementing a zero trust policy. And zero trust, and I'm throwing that out there, so I'm going to explain it. Zero trust basically means they don't assume because you're in their system, you belong in there. They're also limiting the amount of access contractors have to government systems. Once upon a time, and this is just really ridiculous, but once upon a time, a contractor used to get access to the system, and even if your scope of work changed, they didn't change your access. So you basically always had access to what you had access to. Because of the increase in cyber attacks and such, they're making access limited. They're changing access window. So if you need access to this system, if your statement of work is that you need access to this system for 6 months, you're going to have 6 months worth of access. So if you're in this, so project monitoring is going to be very important. If you need more than 6 months to complete that work, and you see that, don't wait till the end of that 6 months, because then you're going to come into all kind of problems. So if you get to month 3 and you kind of can see you're going to need not 6 months, but 9 months, then you need to get working on a contract mod, because your access is going to have to be extended for 3 months. Otherwise, at the end of the 6 months, the access is going to end and you're going to have to restart and justify. And yes, so government security, IT security is getting ready to get real tight. And it's good. It's a good thing. The government is going to do a total overhaul. Now, they've been doing this hodgepodge thing for years, but they're getting serious. And I've been involved in a couple of seminars and summits. They're getting ready to do a major overhaul, and they're getting ready to do a whole lot of interagency collaborations. So, where we're going to see our joint effort on contracts. So DOD might have a contract that Homeland Security have that same need. So Homeland Security is going to partner with DOD. So you're going to see a lot more of contracts being picked up, or contract stakeholders being multiple agencies instead of repetition throughout the government. And that's a good thing for contractors, because one, it makes the contract values larger. So that's great stability for planning purposes. 2, you're going to know who to talk to at all times. And it's good for the government because it kind of mitigates waste, fraud, and abuse. There's a lot of people, and I hate to say it, there are some individuals who go into government contracting and try to run it like a get rich quick scheme. And this whole streamline, and quite frankly, why are we having the same contract all through the government when there could be 1 or 2 contract vehicles that people share? And just combine and consolidate that buying power. And the government appropriations process is so long, we can just go through this thing, get it done, and get the modernization completed in a timely manner, so that everybody, it's a win-win. The government gets what it needs, the contractor gets what it needs. We can move on to the next effort without all of this start, stop, and we got to stop working, and the contractor got to figure out what to do with his workforce, because you can't let them go, because the work's going to start again, but you're paying salaries for people to sit there and play with their thumbs while you have to go through the whole appropriations thing. This is really going to be a win-win for everybody. So be on a look on the horizon for all of these new things. The next year is going to be tumultuous, but for those who implement strategies, for those who stabilize their foundations now, you're going to be ahead of the curve. And I have been saying this since the last year, and I will continue to say it. This time period that we're in, we're going to see a rise of new leadership and new industry leaders. And those who fall in solution and not fall in the problems will be the ones who step up and lead the new generation. We're going to be the game changers and industry changers, because leaders lead through solutions. We don't wallow in problems. And although there are some uncertainties coming through, and I'm not going to say that there aren't, because there are, we need to put forth and implement solutions and shoring up our contracting foundations so that we can scale effectively and efficiently throughout this time to come. It's going to assure our longevity, and it's going to assure that our profits remain and that we can continue to employ our employers and employees and keep work with our contractors and our vendors, because at the end of the day, we provide a service to the government, but we make an impact to our communities. Every job that we offer is a positive impact to the community. Every check or every donation that we make to the school drive, every moment that our workforce donates or spends as a mentor, or every wellness program that we implement for our employees, which is a recoverable cost, is something that helps our community. It builds our community, it builds our workforce, and it's a win-win from all sides. And with that, I'm going to invite you to my virtual summit, which will be November 1st. The registration page will be up the end of today. Look for LTandAConsultingGroupLLC.com. And the virtual summit is going to discuss how to be a power partner with the government or within government contracting. I am pulling some of my power partners. I am reaching out to some government officials because I want you to hear the perspective from primes, and I want you to hear government perspectives on how can you partner with them. What are they looking for? Because far too often we call ourselves government contractors and we're all operating in bubbles, doing what we think the government wants, instead of doing what the government wants. There's only 13 days left until the new fiscal year starts. I also invite you to jump on my calendar and let's get a strategy session going so that you can hit the new year running. The appropriations bill is in their final days. And no matter what you hear with the back and forth and everything, we're going to pass a budget. We're going to pass a spending resolution because the country right now needs the stimulation of the economy and we need the stability of the government. So the spending will get passed. Are you in a position to take advantage of the floodgates that are getting ready to open? We have the refugees being placed within the country. They've already released the various places they're going to be placed. There are going to be services they're going to need. If you're a nonprofit, even if you're for profit, but usually those contracts, they're looking for nonprofits that offer, workforce development, job placement, counseling services. If that's what you do, this is the time for you to really jump out there and take advantage of all that's going on. So with that said, join me on Monday morning at 8:15 a.m. as I bring you another installment of the LT&A Contractors Project. You can catch all of the replays on my YouTube channel, LT&A Contractors Conversation. Be on the lookout for the registration for my virtual summit. It should be up today, so you can register. The interviews will be released daily, starting November 1st, and it's going to be a real treat. You're really going to get a lot of information. Keep in mind all the resources that I shared with you. If you missed out on it, just catch the replay. And I'll see you tomorrow morning. Take the weekend. No, not tomorrow morning. I'm taking the weekend off. I'll see you Monday morning at 8:15. Take the weekend and enjoy yourself. Decompress and release the stress and hit the ground running. We have 13 days until the government fiscal year, and you cannot start the year tired. You need to start full of energy. And this is Luciana Turner, and I am signing off for the day. Have a great one.